These basic mat drills I'm going to be going over with you are a great set of building blocks to build the fundamental strength and motion that you need to be successful on the ground in a judo match. Now, right now I've got some cheap puzzle mats down. You don't need mats necessarily. If you have them, great. If not, with anything that you're impacting the ground, like falling techniques and whatnot, you can always lay out some blankets on top of carpet, or you can do it on grass or whatnot, but always be careful. First thing that I want to go over is the basic side fall and back fall, because these are important to know in order to protect yourself. So the falling position in judo, this is the side fall. I've got this knee pointed up, ball of the foot is down, this leg is extended, and the sole of my foot is facing up towards the ceiling, and I want to make contact with my hamstring, with my calf, with my glute, with the muscles on the side of my back, alongside my spine, not the spine itself, and the scapula muscles of the arm. So it's called a side fall because I'm not completely flat on my back, I'm up slightly. Now don't make the mistake of rolling completely onto your side. You can easily injure your shoulder or your hip doing that, especially if you fall on your elbow with poor form, right? You need to take the impact with your body, and the idea is to disperse the ground's force over the largest surface area. Something that'll help you do this is to look up at the ceiling. I'm gonna be slapping with this same side hand. Other hand is tucked to my chest out of the way, and it's very important that you exhale and get all the air out of your lungs before you hit the ground. And often you'll have this be taught as a ki or the spirit shout, but just a strong exhale will help you there. So position is here, and the way you practice it in judo is what I call the banana peel. Now I'm going to do it very slow and exaggerated so you can see what's happening. My weight's going to be supported on my right leg, heel up. I'm going to keep this leg low, I'm going to slide, almost like I'm doing a pistol squat, and I'm going to hit the ground. Now you'll see people in judo dojos slide, hit, slide, hit. That's a great way to practice it. At first, a little bit of a roll is not bad, but I want you to remember that falls are flat, rolls are round. So try to keep that in mind. Now, to exaggerate and emphasize that point, make everything hit at one time. Everything hits at one time. You should hear one loud pop is what we're going for. Now with that slapping hand, be sure to keep your fingers together and your hand is cupped slightly, so I don't want to be too flat. Slapping on the mat isn't too bad, but if you get in the habit of fingers open, you can jam fingers on the way down, which I've done, or you can slap your palm flat to a hard surface, like if you fall on cement or something like that, and that hurts really bad. So one more time. Like I'm slipping on a banana peel. Same way I'd be throwing a Diashi Harai, but overextended, down, exhale, just a moment before you hit. That's the side fall. Now, the back fall, very easy. We're gonna start from a squatted position. I'm gonna sit my butt down. I'm gonna roll onto my upper back, not my neck. My chin is gonna stay tucked to my chest, and I'm gonna allow my hips to rise slightly as I slap on both sides. So I'm just rolling back, right there. So I'm taking the impact on the upper back. Remember, not our head and neck. The main thing about this back fall is to not bunk your head. If you smack the back of your head on the mat, easy way to get a concussion. I've been there, don't do it. From a squat, remember you're gonna exhale just before impact. So, to begin, start nice and easy. Practice these falls until you get the technique down, but don't do too many at once because you don't want to beat yourself up more than you have to. So, side fall. Left side, right side, and back fall. If you're going to be doing any type of groundwork, whether it's jiu-jitsu, judo, sambo, wrestling, whatever, it's worth knowing how to roll forward and backward. So an easy way to practice forward and backward roll is to do them back and forth, more or less in place. So I'm going to show you the back roll first. It's important that you pay attention to what my head does, because a lot of people at the beginning roll straight over their head, and this is a good way to hurt your neck. We're not going to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my feet as close together as possible. Now they will spread at a point, but by keeping them close together, it's easier to avoid hurting your neck. You'll see why in a second. Helps me to think about having my knees glued together. So as I start to roll back, I'm going to get my head out of the way. Now I opened up space on the left side of my shoulder, so I'm going to point my knees that direction, touch down. Now from here, I'm going to unwind from that same position, forward. Now I'm going to do the opposite side. I can use my hands to help support, touch down, and forward. And once you get comfortable with this, you can go back and forth in place, no problem. And you'll be one step closer to feeling like the ground is your territory. When you're doing your rolls, make sure to have slow, continuous breathing to help you to relax and be nice and soft and round. Because a square doesn't roll very well, right? Nice and relaxed and round, keep a relaxed spine. Always protecting that head. Once you start competing in judo, you'll realize how important it is to not get pinned. And one of the ways they can avoid being pinned is by going belly down, protecting their neck and stalling for time until they're stood back up. So although it's generally a bad idea to expose your back, especially in a real fight scenario, if you're playing by judo rules, it's a fairly safe thing to do, especially if you flatten out and you're good at avoiding being turned over. Now, with this in mind, you don't want people on top of you controlling you, so you've got to have a way out of certain positions, like a full mount, for example. And this is where this combination of moves comes in. So I'm going to practice a bridge, and then I'm going to roll over to go belly down. So assuming someone is here and they've got me mounted, I need to get my feet close to my butt. I'm generally going to trap a hand and a leg on one side, so that way they can no longer post as I roll them over. And I'm going to push my butt up to the ceiling, and I'm going to roll this way to take them this way. Now just the bridges on their own are a great tactic to avoid getting pinned, but like I said, sometimes you want to go belly down. So assuming I've got someone mounted, I'm going to bridge up and over onto my belly, protect that neck. Bridge up and over onto my belly, protect that neck. Now, if they're able to stay on top of you and ride out the roll, you're going to have your neck protected and you're going to be able to stall for time. If they don't, you can just ride up into their guard and either get back to your feet or pass from that point. So either way, it's helpful to be able to bridge, go to your belly. Bridge, belly. Bridge, belly. Bridge, belly. Don't forget to protect that neck if you got someone on your back. Sometimes you'll find yourself in a position either underneath a full mount or underneath a side mount, and it is not a place you want to hang out. So you need to be able to sort of squeak your way out from underneath. This is where the shrimp comes in and the reverse shrimp. So the standard shrimp, I'm going to turn onto one side. I'm going to have my elbow in their hip, opposite foot, plants to the ground, lifts my hips up, and I'm going to push my hips back, try to get this knee to this elbow so I can get back to my guard position, right? So if someone's on top of me, rather than just getting flattened out, I'm going to turn, face the danger, elbow underneath the hip. I'm going to push, make space in front of their hips, squeak this knee across, reclaim my guard position from there. So a standard shrimp you can do in place. Notice I keep my arms in close like a T-Rex. I don't want to overextend and end up getting armbarred. Now, sometimes you'll get trapped underneath a side mount with your arms pinned below. This is where the reverse shrimp comes in. So rather than pushing my hips backward, I'm going to start in this crunch position. I'm going to dig the sides of my feet in, and I'm going to drag my hips forward as I toss the imaginary opponent over the top. So what that looks like is crunched, tossed, crunched, tossed. This way, you slide out from underneath them in the direction towards your feet. Now I'm going to put these two together. I'm going to start by shrimping back, pulling forward, shrimping back, pulling forward, shrimping back, pulling forward, shrimping back, pulling forward. Oop. Learning how to control your hips on the mat will give you a big advantage in your transition movements, and it's absolutely crucial if you plan on doing any competition. Once you start diving into the world of groundwork, it's important to have a strong foundation of how to move your hips and a strong core. So this will help you practice those both at once. I call these helicopters. This is one of two ab workouts that works especially well for judo, and I'll show you those side by side. So first, helicopters. Here's the idea. I'm on my butt. I can use my hands to push off to get myself started. So I'm going to pick a direction, and I'm going to push, and I'm going to try to slide my feet to the point where they're underneath me and bring it back to the front, and then I'm going to change directions. So it may not look like much, but once you start flowing, it's a really good ab workout, and it helps you moving those hips around, right? You got the basic idea. It's a very good warm-up as well, something to keep in mind. Now, another efficient way of working out your abs in a judo context, pretend you got a closed guard, and you're gonna work crunch with a collar choke. So it's like a standard crunch, but I'm gonna reach up, fingers in, pull my hips, pull my hips. So you can see what my arms are doing. I'm reaching in the collar, grabbing, tightening. You can do the same thing, thumbs in. By doing this, you're killing two birds with one stone. Now, I'm gonna throw a third ab workout in. This will be more for the lower abs. It's a great one to know. So it starts in a motion that's similar to that back fall, but I'm gonna kick my feet and hips up to the ceiling. So this is how it starts. I'm gonna roll back, extend up, roll back, extend up. And once I start getting comfortable with this, I'm gonna start slapping my legs into a sankaku. And when you get a little more comfortable with it, you can even corkscrew on your way up, the way you might in a match. I find the sankaku is a relatively underutilized move in judo. I had a lot of success with it myself. Definitely worth knowing. And in order to pull it off, it's really helpful to be able to get your hips nice and high. Now, of course, this is an exaggeration, but if I try to do my triangle from here, it's not gonna happen. You gotta snatch that thing, okay? Okay, this next combination is a brutal one for your shoulders. It'll help you build a lot of shoulder stability and flexibility, so make sure you start nice and slow. And if you can only do one, just do one. If you can only do two, just do two. And try not to push it, slowly build up to this. So first I'm gonna start with what I call a judo push-up, and then I'm gonna go straight into a sit-out. The judo push-up, I've also heard of them called Hindu push-ups and dive bombers. You might have seen them before. I'm gonna start hands wide, feet wide, and I'm gonna imagine there's a bar, like a pull-up bar, across right here, and I'm gonna duck my head underneath, and I'm gonna retract the same way. Now once I'm here, I'm gonna support myself on one arm. I'm gonna sit out, come back, sit out. Now the dive bomber judo push-up is just a great workout. That's why I like to do it. But I've noticed that when I practice the sit-outs, it's also a very good shoulder workout, so I like to pair them together, right? Now the sit-out itself, super helpful if you're in a turtle position, someone's trying to take your back and you want to get out. Wrestlers are great at it, for example. I also find that it's helpful to be able to do this position because this hip switch mimics a transition to certain pins. So if I were in a form of side control and I wanted to switch to Keisagatame, I often switch my hips through to be able to trap that head, right? So it's important to be able to go back and forth with control. So this next combination is going to teach you two important things that work in different situations for Judo Newaza. So the first one is the motion leading up to a hip bump sweep, and the second one is what I like to call Judo drags. If I were to have some space, I would do this to pull myself along the mat. Let me show you those first. So Judo drag, you want your feet up in the air so you're not tempted to push off your toes and use them. And I'm going to take my hands, slap them down on the mat, and I'm gonna grip on the mat and pull myself forward, like so. Now, obviously I don't have a lot of space to cover right here, but this motion, that dragging motion, will make your pins so much stronger. Take everything, suck it into your core. Take everything, pull it into your core. That's the idea here with the judo drags, right? So that's number one. Number two is the hip bump sweep. So I like to start off with a specific motion because it helps me get the rhythm, and then I make it a little more applicable. So I'm going to start sitting up in this tripod where I put my folded leg down, other leg in front. I'm going to rise with the power of my hips. And I'm going to switch other side. Up. 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 Now, this is a lot more difficult than it looks. You might need a little bit of momentum to get started. Eventually, you want to be able to just rise strictly with core strength. This technique will help build the strength needed for a hip bump sweep. So, same way, my hips lead the charge here. If I were in a guard scenario, I could sit up, reach over the top, trap an arm, push my hips over the top to take the mount, right? So that's what it's gonna look like with a partner, over the top. But that hip bump is built here. This is where the power is. So I'm gonna put this all together. Bump over the top, down, drag, turn over, sit up, bump, over, drag. So the idea here is we are in the guard. I'm going to sweep the opponent up over the top, take mount, I'm gonna scoop everything nice and tight so they're not getting away, okay? All right, everybody. Hope you had fun watching this video. Hope you learned something new, and hopefully I gave you some ideas on some things you can work out at home before you get a chance to get over to a dojo. If you can find a gym, obviously that's the best course of action, but working out solo is not a bad way to keep yourself sharp, right? So if you enjoyed this video, please share it, give it a like, that sort of thing. If you want to see more videos like it, make sure to get subscribed. So I've got a lot more coming down the pipe. All right, thank you all for your time.